Welcome back. Now we are back on stage 4 blackouts today. Last night Eskom implemented stage 6 until 5 o'clock this morning. It said it had to ensure sufficient generation capacity throughout the night after the breakdown of 6 generating units. The utility says dam levels at pumped storage power stations must be replenished so that enough capacity will be available today. Right now, let's discuss this further. We're joined by David Richard Walwyn. He is a professor of technology management at the University of Pretoria. Prof, thank you very much for your time here on eNCA. I think firstly what confuses me at least is that by this time, from the 15th of December, firms and the industrial sector is closed. People are on holiday in that sector. So I would have thought that at the moment we would have enough electricity to at least be on stage 2 or 1 load shedding or no load shedding at all. What do you think is really going on? Is it the sabotage?
I think sabotage it's probably maybe not the correct word at this point, because I would say that it's not sabotage, is more like purposeful malfunction, which is taking place within the power stations. But I mean, just to go back to your earlier point about why are we not slowing down for the festive season?
Yeah.
I think there is a slowdown, but it's not a huge amount. It's about 2 to 4 gigawatts of energy that is no longer required as a consequence of the closure for the holiday season. So definitely demand is down, but I think the whole situation in the power stations at the moment is very untenable. I think that Eskom management have lost control of the 15 coal-fired power stations, and as a consequence, we keep on having these outages which lead to ongoing load shedding. So if I just give you the number quickly on the load shedding, we need about 28 gigawatts of power as peak power during the day, and we can only deliver about 22 altogether. And so that's a shortfall of about 6 gigawatts, and hence stage 6 load shedding.
Yeah, okay, so you say lost control of the power stations. I just want to understand what that means, because, I mean, we've never had this type of power cuts in South Africa for a while. This is the worst that we've ever seen, and I guess what we're trying to understand as South Africans, because there's been so many newly built power stations that also experience very bad generating unit breakdowns, etc. Is it badly built power stations? Why are the new power stations also part of the problem?
So I think there were 2 reasons. I mean, the one was that the new power stations have several design faults in them.
Yeah.
They were designed as cooled power stations with very novel design constraints, if you like. And these were almost untested on a global scale. So Medupi, for instance, is the largest air-cooled power station ever to be attempted. So there were design faults, first of all. And secondly, I think there were major issues in the construction. So the construction process itself has been considerably undermined by corruption, by lack of governance, by installation of sub-quality equipment, by appointment of contractors who can't do what they're supposed to be doing. So all of those issues lead to this rather prolonged commissioning period for both of those power stations. And as a consequence, we are then not benefiting from the investments which by now should have been completed and should be running at full steam.
What do you think about the resignation of the CEO? I know he's still serving notice for the next 2 to 3 months or so, but what are your thoughts around Andre de Ruyter's resignation? Will this help at all?
I don't think it'll help. I think there are systemic issues in Eskom which will not be resolved by a new management team. They will require long-term initiatives from within the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy, and also from within the security services, to try and deal with the way in which these criminal elements have taken control of the coal-fired power stations. So, I mean, I think that's the overall answer to your question, is I don't think that Andre de Ruyter's resignation is going to improve things in the short term. It's a tough job. And he seemed to me to be someone who was well qualified to do the job, but even he has now said, I'm sorry, I can no longer manage or make progress in this issue. I also think that it's a big setback for Eskom, and I said an article which arose, was the background to this interview really, and that article said it's a setback for three reasons. And the first reason is, firstly, that Eskom needs to turn back the tide of state capture, and that's what I've just been talking about. The second reason is that Eskom needs to pursue the unbundling of the three arms, transmission, distribution, and generation, which underwriters had been driving. And it's not clear whether the new management will be equally insistent on that process. And then the third reason is this issue about environmental compliance and the transformation of Eskom into a green energy company. And that, I think, was a particular vision of Andre de Ruyter's, which wasn't shared at a political level. And I very much doubt whether that's going to be taken forward in the short term by a new management team at Eskom.
I'd hate to be the person who is, going to be taken to replace Andre de Ruyter. It seems like a very difficult job, and from what you're saying, whatever de Ruyter faced will not be any different for the next person. So what would be your advice to the next CEO of Eskom?
Well, I would like to see like a bi-directional performance contract between the political leadership and the operational leadership. So, I mean, the one encouraging thing that has happened in the last period is that in the ANC conference, it was noted that they're going to dissolve the Department of Public Enterprises. So the split responsibility for state-owned enterprise is going to end, and these SOEs will be transferred to their line departments. I think that's a good thing because, as you saw in some of the interviews, the ministers have been using this as an excuse to pass the buck, to remove themselves from responsibility. So now we know who's responsible for the failure of Eskom. It will be the Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy. And that's a very significant step. But if I was coming in as the CEO, I would want a very clear in writing specification as to this is the vision that I have for the organization, and you as my immediate line manager or the line department, this is what you need to buy in on a long-term basis so that I can pursue this strategy without political interference. And that's not what we've had. We've had a lot of political interference in the organization at a time when management has been very clear about its direction and about the necessary things that need to happen in Eskom.
Well, thank you so much, Prof, for speaking to us. Good luck to that person who will have to actually be in the driver's seat there at Eskom. I'd hate to be a person who comes in during this time of load shedding in South Africa. Professor David Richard Walwyn from the University of Pretoria, thank you for your time.